Welcome to the Lead Like Jesus Zoomcast. I am Karen Conley, and I am thrilled to be talking to someone from many, many time zones away today. You will see, if you have the privilege of joining us by video, our guest, Matt Rawlins. Thank you so much for joining us on this Zoomcast as the host for Lead Like Jesus. I can't wait to have this conversation with you. You live in a lot of the space that our audience lives. And so I think this is going to be incredibly helpful. Thank you for staying up late in Singapore and joining us on this podcast.
Well, thanks for having me. It's a treat. And I jokingly say sometimes the future is going to be okay. I'm in your future and tomorrow is looking okay.
That's fantastic. Well, for our audience, if they're not familiar with you and your work, Matt is the founder of Broken Top Leadership Institute. He is also the founder of his own marketplace consulting firm called Green Bench Consulting, has his PhD in leadership, and really has walked in a space with pastors, missionaries, CEOs, every type of leadership that you can imagine is the space that Matt walks in. And so I know that we reach every one of those sectors in our audience. And I'm particularly excited and would love to hear from you a little bit of your journey that brought you to Singapore, because a lot of our audience and a lot of the people that work with Lead Like Jesus are international. So how did you get to Singapore? Talk a little bit about your journey.
Yeah, thanks, Karen. I first came to Singapore. I was working with a missions group called Youth with a Mission, YWAM. And I was working in Asia. I met my wife in Hong Kong. She's from Hawaii. And they asked us to come to Singapore and take over the work of the YWAM base here in 1983. So we moved here in 83, and we were in charge of the work here from 83 to 88. I left, went back to school, did some graduate work, worked with YWAM in Hawaii a bit. And then in 2005, came back out here, started my own consulting company, and have been out here ever since. So yeah, Singapore's been our home. Our son was born out here. My wife and I live here. My son lives in the States. So it's a great place. If you don't know where it is, if you're unfamiliar with the international, if you go to the bottom of Malaysia, at the very tip of the peninsula, a little city state, we have about 6 million people here, and we're just north of Indonesia. So it's kind of a little red dot, they call it.
There you go. Well, we are excited to be able to learn from you today. And I know that as you have had the opportunity to work with all types of leaders, you've probably seen the good, the bad, and the ugly in the leadership world. I know that one of the things that I would love for us to talk to, and hopefully we'll have the opportunity for more than one Zoomcast, I want to talk about how people work through change. What it looks like in an organization. And honestly, it's not just professionally, it's personally. We all have to deal with change. So I want to really dive into that topic, but maybe a better place to start out with, you get a lay of the land. When you think about your experience working with leaders, what sticks out to you as maybe the most common or the most serious issue that leaders need to address?
Yeah, it's a great question. Well, the area that I have kind of worked my way to, I took a test years ago, and the test in essence said kind of the way I'm wired is to take complex ideas and to take them to a simple meaning. And so with my research and working with a variety of different leaders and organizations, I've kind of realized that tension is the leverage points that leaders have to deal with more and more. And it's really a huge issue. So I spend a lot of my time dealing with tension, helping people view tension in a more healthier way, and just kind of how do we frame tension. Change, strictly speaking, nobody minds change. So, if I walked up to someone and said, here's $1 million, change your life, they wouldn't go, oh, change, this burden is too heavy on me, I just don't think I can bear it. So change isn't, strictly speaking, the issue that most of us suffer with. It's the imposition of someone else's will on our own. It's the tensions of getting out of our own familiar comfort zones. It's the tensions of the risks involved and those type of things that really are the challenges that we have to deal with in this process. And there's no, when we get down to that area, we're not dealing with culture, we're just dealing with people, humanity, and the struggles of that. So yeah, I work a lot with tension, dealing with tension, workshops on tension, because I think it's that leverage point. And okay, let me say this right up front, and I'm always very careful to say this. Yes, I've studied tension. Yes, I've spent my years in it, but I'm a coward at heart. I mean, outside of the grace of God, I don't like tension. I don't run towards tension. I don't look at tension and go, oh, tension, what a nice friend you're going to be on this trip. You know what I mean? So let me get that out of the way. So it's, there are times I got to say to myself, Matt, come on, put on your big boy pants, and step up to this, because you got to love something more than yourself. And that's what allows me to be able to work through the tension. So yeah, it's a big challenge for all of us.
So when you are working with leaders and you are able, and I love what you said of your gifting to be able to take complex ideas and simplify them, because I think so many times we make things overly complicated. So if you really boil it down to this issue of tension and really identify it as kind of the pivotal point where you can take the tension and deal with it in a positive way or deal with it in a negative way. What are some of the negative ways that you see people deal with tension? So if a leader's listening right now, what are maybe some of the symptoms that would tell them, okay, wait, you might need to go a different direction as you're entering into this place of decision making?
Well, I love Genesis, and I love hanging out in Genesis, because I think the book of beginnings is so good. And God comes into the garden. So the one day in the garden, when God comes into the garden, Adam and Eve run towards God. The next day they come in the garden, Adam and Eve run away from God, and God hasn't changed. So something happened inside of us when our eyes were opened. And so part of what I do, if I'm dealing with a Christian group, then I'll look at a biblical basis for tension. If I'm just in the marketplace, then we'll have to look at how do we frame tension and some of the dynamics that go with that. But from a biblical point of view, I'll spend a half day with people sometimes just helping them to see that God's not afraid of tension. I mean, I really had to kind of work through this in my own research in my own life, because I'm not liking tension. And then I started to realize, wait a second, God put a tree in a garden, and this is before the fall, and the tree creates tension. And then he has the audacity to let this slick-looking dude come in and do a presentation to Eve and say, hey, baby, let's take a walk on the wild side. And lo and behold, so there we've got, this is before the fall. And then, if you go back even to the name of God, is he one or is he three? There's a mystery. There is intrinsic tension in the very name of God. So part of us, what we've got to do is we've got to go, I think the first thing and the biggest thing, back to your question, that leaders deal with is we externalize. So we say the tension is out there, that is bad. And, so Adam says, the woman you gave to me. So he has the audacity to blame God for evil in the universe. So he's externalized it and blamed God. And Eve, she says the devil made me do it, as the old comedy would say, but she was deadly serious, unfortunately. So you can see that the first two things that we got wrong in the midst of tension is bad theology and bad understanding of spiritual warfare. Bad theology, God's source of evil in the universe, and bad spiritual warfare. If we could just silence the devil, everything would be all right, because we're basically good people and he made us do it. So those are the things that we really have to wrestle with at a pretty deep level to come back to going, listen, God is God and he's not afraid of tension, so I don't have to be afraid of tension. And then I got to kind of grow my capacity to go, is God in this tension? And if he is, then I don't have to fear. I'm not saying I got to like it. Believe me, I don't. It's not, So, those are the things that we got to work through. We pull up our spiritual boots. We put on our breastplate of righteousness and etc. And we step into it and we say, okay, this is tension. I got to figure out how to be present and with minimum anxiety and walk into this. And that's really the work of any leader, is to walk into the midst of tension and not be anxious, or well, to minimize the anxiety. To not be anxious is not a possibility in our world, but nonetheless. So yeah, those are the challenges for us.